Actually, I put another 30,000 people's in fact, it's always, if you believe me, that's alright. I'll explain what's in there to everybody very shortly. Right, well, 1 minute. Whether the rest of the room have arrived or not, we will begin.
I've resolved a few issues. It's in the back.
30 seconds. What do you think? I know people who want to prove that I don't psychologically fuck anybody up. There we go. On my count, 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, yeah, about 2/3 of you made it here on time. Well done to those who are here. So don't be surprised if people suddenly randomly appear to walk in during the proceedings. Apparently there's car accidents, and no doubt we'll hear stories of trains getting delayed or whatever other bloody crappy excuses people come out with for not being here on time. So when I say well done for being here, I do genuinely mean that, for being here on time, because if you truly are committed to something enough, then you will make sure that you were there on time. Which kind of, what the fuck relevance is that to why we're here? Well, it's very relevant because what we're going to cover this weekend is largely to do, on one level, pure and simple, with you guys and girls, and the guys and girls who aren't here yet, and for them, well, let's look at them disapprovingly when they get here late. Make them feel bad, rub it in. I mean, this first section is probably, at first sight or sounding, going to seem like I am just rambling on. It will probably, at first sight, so to speak, sound like I am at times bragging, and at other times like I've lost the plot. Like, why the fuck would anyone of any sound mind tell an audience of people that? All, however, hopefully, certainly hopefully, as the day goes on and the weekend goes on, will become clear as to why I will have told you certain things that may seem completely irrelevant at the time of me telling you. So in other words, what I'm saying is, however irrelevant anything I should tell you, certainly before lunchtime today, after that it should become a hell of a lot clearer, but before lunchtime today, however irrelevant, ridiculous, or completely, apparently at first sight, or hearing unrelated to hypnosis, what I say, show you or do is, trust me, by the end of today, and as the 3 days go on, it will become ridiculously crystal clear that everything about this event is for a purpose. Right down to the t-shirt I'm wearing now and the huge assortment of other t-shirts you will see over the weekend. Because in case you didn't realise, in the adverts did mention there will be, oh you lucky people, there will be a minimum of 5 different t-shirts per day. Each coffee break I'll be changing into a different t-shirt, lunchtime into a different t-shirt, no expense spared for this event, I tell you. But pay attention to the t-shirts, because each of these t-shirts, every day for the next 3 days, however ridiculous the t-shirts may seem, have actually been purchased and are going to be worn for a reason, because the t-shirt itself, frankly, when you pay attention to it, will teach you more about hypnosis than going on some fucking week, fortnight, 3.5 grand, oh now you've done this bloody practitioner course, you need to come on our master practitioner course in a month's time, and then you need to come on this advanced master practitioner course. No, you'll learn more just by observing the fucking t-shirts this weekend than you would going on those courses. Hopefully on top of what will be on the t-shirts, you'll also learn from what I say and demonstrate a new experience. So let's start at the beginning, and that is that we're here. Hopefully now that you realise that there is going to be a level of insanity to some elements of this, but it is with a purpose. Let's make sure you're all awake. Good morning!
Good morning!
Considering there's only 2/3 of you arrived, nice one, that was good. Very quickly, you got, show of hands, have you got your name badges on? I know you all know your own names, but I'm crap at remembering names. Which is also the reason why, when you look in the Elite Hypnosis Bootcamp backup materials that you've got access to, when you look at the memory stuff, it's not me teaching it, because I don't teach stuff that I'm crap at. My wife's teaching the memory stuff, because she remembers everything for me. So I'll just warn you of that as well. In fact, that's why you've got the badges, so I can get used to your name, and so you can get to know each other. Quick show of hands, so I know a few things. Who's stopping either here or close by tonight? Vast majority. Even if you're not stopping here tonight, who is going to be coming in the bar at the end of the day socialising? Right. You will note that each evening I will not be fucking off, disappearing, unlike certain people that shall remain nameless. I wouldn't stand here and say names like Paul Kenner, Richard Bandler, or anyone of their ilk who will take thousands of pounds off you to tell you complete and utter cobblers that doesn't work in the real world. I won't be going, oh, I'm too tired, and pissing off to some other hotel and not socialising. I will be in the bar. You're more than welcome to ask any questions. If it is something that I've already covered that you ask a question about, then I will more than happily answer it. The chances are, if it's something I haven't yet covered, but is noted down here as to be covered at some point during the weekend, then my answer may well be at the time, we'll be covering that tomorrow. In which case I won't answer it in the bar, purely and simply because otherwise that will be part of the seminars. So you'd have to sit through it twice. So with that out of the way, legally I have to tell you, if there's give me a fucking piece of paper for this morning. I'm being serious. They give me a fucking piece of paper. Welcome and all this shite. A piece of paper. The fucking world's gone mad. If you discover a fire, right? I'm not taking the piss. They give me a piece of paper for this. If you discover a fire, immediately operate the nearest fire alarm. No. Take no personal risks. Leave the building by the nearest exit. Do not re-enter the building whilst on fire. For fuck's sake. This is the sad world we live in. That because of health and safety, apparently it's deemed necessary that I might be a complete and utter fuckwit that doesn't realise this. And apparently, all you lot in this room are complete fuckwits, because they must have given me this for a reason, to tell everybody. I'd like to think you've all got enough sense to know that if there was a fire, the doors are there and there, they're windows. Because according into this, I need to tell you this. They're windows, don't use them, they're doors. Fuck knows. But I've covered myself legally. If there's a fire, don't run, be careful, get out the building, stay out until told it's safe. That's the sad world we live in. That's health and safety regarding this building. Health and safety regarding hypnosis. If I do ask for volunteers this weekend for any of the demonstrations at any time, the key thing is if you do volunteer, i.e. you stand up and you come this way to the front, by volunteering, basically, tough shit. That's the key. If you volunteer when you step up here, whatever I do, don't complain afterwards. Because, simple as that. Which is why it's being filmed, also. Because from an insurance purposes point of view, I can prove that I've not done anything that fucks people's heads up. Which would be pretty damned impossible to do anyway, given key lesson number 1, before I start this morning, in the fucked up crazy world of my life, and the relevance to it all, is because to fuck somebody's head up with hypnosis would, by pure definition, be saying that hypnosis actually exists and was real. And given that it doesn't fucking exist, how can you fuck somebody's head up with it? It is, which, for those people who have perhaps not encountered this before, am I saying to you that we're going to be here for 3 days learning about something that doesn't exist? Yes. That is precisely what I'm saying. If you had been told that hypnosis is some altered state of mind, bullshit. The person teaching it either didn't know what they were talking about, or they were talking complete and utter cobblers on purpose because they wanted you to spend too much money for no particular good purpose, or they genuinely believed the bullshit they were telling you because they'd been brainwashed it themselves into believing that because they paid for this certificate course. Then they'd gone on the master practitioner, then they'd gone on the advanced master practitioner, by which point they'd spent thousands. So to now admit to themselves that what they learned was effectively just a whole bunch of ritual bullshit, which it is, they would have to admit to themselves that they wasted thousands of pounds and hours of their life unnecessarily when they could have been out there in the real world doing it, rather than being convinced that this mumbo-jumbo bullshit that they paid money for was actually of any particular worth, which, other than the fact that it is a ritual, it isn't. It's exactly what I just said, complete and utter bullshit. So what brings me to the point that I stand in front of you at the event in London, effectively telling you all that you paid money to be at an event to learn something that doesn't fucking exist. Because that in itself is a bit fucked up. Well, let's start at the beginning. Good morning.
Good morning, how are you?
Okay, this is where it starts to get a bit mind-fucking. I will say, by the way, there's no need to take any notes, unless you want to. You can do, obviously, by personal choice. There's no need to, because everything is being videoed for insurance purposes. So I will, within a week of the event, I've uploaded all the videos to the private members area that you've got a username and password for. In that regard, show of hands, who actually got their email with the usernames and passwords? Okay. If anyone didn't, because it might have gone to some people's spam folder or junk folder, let me know in one of the breaks. I'll jot down your email again, and I will send it you again. But fortunately, by the look of it, the vast majority of people, so I won't have too many to resend. Literally everything we're going to cover, and a shed load more besides, is covered in that members area. Now, I'm not saying to you that when you leave this course, you need to study everything in that members area. Frankly, that will be a monumental waste of your life. Because it will take you somewhere in the round of about 260 hours minimum just to watch all the videos, let alone listen to the audio, read the books, and this, that, and the other. So fitting that in with everyday life, it'd take you quite a while. There's no need to. There are two purposes for you having all that stuff available. One will become clear when we get to the marketing. The other is quite simply whichever area you decide to go in, because some of you in this room will want to do stage hypnosis. Some of you in this room will want to do hypnotherapy, some of you will want to do both. Some of you, I know, will just want to use it in specific niches. So for example, painless childbirth, or for pain control, or for whatever. It doesn't matter what your desire is. The tools that I will demonstrate, you will experience, I will teach you, this weekend alone should be enough for you to go and do it. If you go, oh, I've forgotten a certain thing, then you will be able to look at the boot camp and just at the bit that's relevant to what you actually want to do. So don't be overwhelmed by the idea of, oh my God, there's so much bloody stuff in there. You don't need to study it all to be successful at this. Okay? So you can kind of sigh with relief that you don't have to study all that, but also know that you don't need to take notes unless you want to. It will be covered somewhere in that stuff that you've got. So with that said, let's start at the beginning again. My name is Jonathan Royle. It isn't, that's a lie. That is my stage name, performance name. It is not my legal name. Could be if I wanted, but my name actually is by birth. Let's face it, it's just a label, it's just a tag, it's just something that my parents were legally obliged to register on a piece of paper when I came into this world, because that's how governments choose to keep track of people and therefore be in some position of control. And if any of this sounds conspiracy theorist, don't worry, as the weekend goes on you will come to realise that it is more fact than theory. And if you don't end up believing that, well, you're the sad deluded fucking old me. But this is very relevant because from the moment we are born, we are conditioned, brainwashed, call it what you will. Every single thing you see, hear, feel, and do in some way affects you. And has an effect that is long-standing, to a greater or lesser degree, dependent on how emotionally charged that particular event or experience was. But we'll come back to that, as oftentimes during the course of today, especially, I will appear to just go off on one. And that is the last time that I will draw attention to the fact that I will do that, so that you know in advance that when I do, there is a purpose to it. Most of the time. Not necessarily all the time, but most of the time there's a purpose to it. So, I was born Alex William Smith, because that's, well, I wasn't born that, I was born. I was nobody. There was no name. I was just this person that was born. And when it came to the registering documents time, that is the name that got put down for whatever, what were the fucking reasons? I think, if I seem to recall, the Alex bit was because my dad wanted the name Alex because Uncle Ali Coles, as he called him, MBE, he was a comedy musician, drummer, and multi-instrumentalist, played different musical instruments, did a comedy show, going back to like musical days. By the time I was born, he would have been like in his 70s by the time I was born. Apparently the Alex bit was after him, even though he was still alive. Why? God knows. It's normally people who are dead, isn't it? Anyway, I digress. The Smith bit is, well, that's because it was my dad's surname. That's kind of how it works, apparently. And the middle bit, both my grandparents were called, but so that's, what the fuck's that got to do with hypnosis? You're thinking. Well, at first sight, nothing. However, you see, my parents believed that they had to go and give this name and get this piece of paper that we call it a birth certificate. And apparently, if they didn't within X amount of time, I don't know if it's the same back then as it is now, within so many days or weeks of birth, 6 weeks is it, that they could face prosecution, charges. So, you know, the idea of not doing it potentially would lead to negative consequences. Or you could look at that and let's give it another label. The idea of perhaps getting punished to some could be perceived as being painful. But the idea of, I will use the word conformity, doing what we're led to believe is right, but doing that which apparently is right, doing that which socially we're conditioned is what's supposed to be acceptable, seems far more acceptable in itself to the person to do, and therefore more comfortable. And there's no pain involved, really. Some people might argue differently, but essentially it's the direct opposite from going against what we're told you're supposed to do, which could end with punishment, pain, negative, people frowned upon. So there are two polar opposites. Do we do that which we're told we're supposed to, i.e. abide by the law, or what social conventions say we should do? You know, socially convention-wise, it would not be at all normal or acceptable for somebody just to pull the pants down and stand here on stage for no apparent good reason. But if there is something you take from this bit before the morning break, it's the key fucked up thing that anyone that comes to you for therapy, just as a pure example, the key problem that they will have is the fact that they are stuck in this brainwash mode that things have to be done a certain way. The moment you do things people don't expect, they start to think, what the fuck's going on? As I can tell by your faces, it's precisely the brainwave patterns that are going through your head right now. The point is, now in NLP, they would tell you that what I just did, they would give it a fancy name. They would call that a pattern interrupt. Okay? Because NLP, if you teach them one thing, is if you give things winky-wanky names, you can charge thousands of pounds to teach people that bullshit. Pattern interrupt deciphered, in a nutshell, this is a full day of NLP training in 60 seconds. Pattern interrupt is doing something people don't expect that doesn't fit their normal patterns. Or, let's get rid of the word patterns because that's just making it winky-wanky sounding. Let's be truthful, what is it? It's doing something people don't expect to occur because it's out of the ordinary, or it's unexpected, or it perceptively is not normal. Okay? Now, if nothing else, if there's nothing else you remember from this weekend, which would be fucking sad if this is the only thing you do remember, but one thing that I guarantee will stick in your head is the sight of me dropping my pants at the front of the room. That will be burned into your head, whether you want it to or not. And I know it's got nothing to do with the event, just next time at that very crucial moment when you're fucking the missus, just at that moment you're about to come, it's my fucking facial. So yeah, it doesn't appear like a waffle moment. This is all very relevant. It truly is the building blocks. So aside from the unexpected, my parents did what was expected, what was the norm, what you were meant to do. That's how I got this name, Alex William Smith, which sadly doesn't sound that good when you get introduced on stage. So, ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Alex Smith. See, it's a bit shit. You know? That's my stage name. But there's been various of those over the years, because I've done various things over the years, and those various things that I've done have led me to that position of being stood here today, telling you that you pay money for an event to learn something that doesn't exist. Okay? And those things kind of went as follows. Once I was born, which I had no choice about, I was born on the circus. My mum and dad were travelling with a circus called Gandhi's Circus that mainly performed down in the north of England. They're what they call winter quarters. Their base, where they store everything in the winter when they're not out on the road, is in a place called Congleton in Cheshire. But they they still are, but not so much circus. They now put out a show that you might have heard of if you've been to Edinburgh Festival or anything like that, a show called The Lady Boys of Bangkok. And another show called Spirit of the Horse, which is, what it sounds like, a horse show. But when I was born, which is fast approaching 40 years ago, they were massive circus family. So I was born, my dad was doing clowning, circus clown, under the name Tizzy the Clown, T-I-Z-Z-Y. And my mum was doing whip cracking, knife throwing, sharp shooting, cowgirl type act. I was about 3 and a bit, and again, no choice in the matter. I was, when I say forcibly, it wasn't like, you know, some kind of forcibly as in like child abuse, bend over and fucking up the arse dirty, not that kind of level of forcibly. But there again, some could argue equally potentially as bad from a potential psychological negativity point of view. I had no choice in the matter. I was dressed up, the red nose, the slap as we call it, the business makeup, the silly outfit, and from the age of 3 and a bit was performing in the ring, 2 shows a day, 6 days a week. Because the other day you were travelling from one ground to the next town or what have you. Assisting my dad in the circus. I didn't have a choice in the matter because it was simply a case of otherwise he couldn't do routines that required more than one person because the other clown had, I don't know, assumedly left, been sacked. All I know is that it was not originally planned, as far as I'm aware, for me to do that, but effectively, if the show was to go on, suddenly the 3-year-old had to be dressed up and be the one who helped Daddy out in the ring. Which I'm sure at the time, I'm looking at the photographs that, if you look at my Facebook profile, there are albums there, pictures in there of me doing it. I do, in fairness, look as though I'm having fun. My memory of it isn't that, but there again, I don't remember it particularly that clearly until a later stage. But what I do remember is I didn't have a fucking choice in the matter. It wasn't, let's say, I don't particularly, there was certainly, there grew a point where I knew myself I did not want to do that. But I didn't have a choice in the matter, I had to keep doing it. Because otherwise, there was no act properly. So therefore that would mean your dad couldn't do the act, ain't getting paid. So I had no choice in the matter. I don't say that to, you know, none of this am I saying with the intention of you going, oh, what a shame, what a hard life. No. Far from it. So that hopefully it will become clear how I discovered what I would say the keys to making this thing that doesn't exist work and successful. So yeah, I grew up and realised that I didn't want to do that clowning life. Amplified by the bits that I do remember. I don't remember much when I was 3. The first thing I kind of remember, possibly vaguely, is like watching it on a film in my head. I don't really feel in the moment, but it's like I can almost see it. I was about 4 and a half, and we're taking a break from Gandhi Circus, and we're working on the Golden Mile in Blackpool. At a time when Blackpool was the Las Vegas of the North, and not the shithole, dirty, stag and hen night destination it now is. It was actually a family entertainment place back in 1979. And I was working on the front with my dad, There's a bit of a pattern there, because again, obviously I was at an age, it wasn't down to me, I had to do it. Again, dressed up as a clown, Flap the Clown. The reasoning being, my dad's clown name was Tizzy, and you get in a Tizzy, and you get in a Flap. These are sayings, so hence it was Tizzy and Flap. Which in itself gave people an expectation that things were going to be funny. Expectation, interesting word. Trust me, there are things relevant to hypnosis amongst clientele. So yeah, I'm on Blackpool Golden Mile with my dad, and we were fronting what was called the Paul Daniels Magic Museum. Pretty much self-explanatory if you've heard of Paul Daniels, the famous magician. At the time, he was just becoming really massively known in England. At that particular season, I believe he was at South Pier's Blackpool Pleasure Beach, and it was probably the other pier, North Pier, I think he was at. Yeah, it's the one opposite from the Pleasure Beach, anyway. But on the front, some Jewish guy, I didn't realise, what relevance is that? The fact I told you he was Jewish, I don't know. But I found out at that stage Paul Daniels is Jewish. So that could be why this Jewish guy came up with the idea of renting some of Paul's props off him, sticking them on shore statically with some video footage and charging people money to go around this magical museum. But to get them in, to attract the crowd to the attraction, to get them to pay with the money and go inside, to see these wonders of magnificent, it was crowd. But to see these wonders of magnificent inside that truly did not live up to the advertising, but is often, very often the case with things. I'd be on the front with my dad. I don't know how tall I was, but I'm certainly shorter than I am now. In clown outfit. My dad had been in clown outfit as well. And on occasion, I say on occasion, because most of the time he would be missing and not there, and he'd be found in one of the many arcades Blackpool has, more often than not smoking a joint, or gone having a drink, but not being where he should be, would be Paul Daniels Jr., Paul's son, who was supposed to be on the front with us so that Paul Daniels was performing live at the Magic Museum. He fucking wasn't. It was his son. No one knew who he was. Aside from which he wasn't hardly ever there. So we were there with this head guillotine illusion, which essentially apparently take this guillotine and it penetrates somebody's neck. We were doing that on the front, drawing in edges, pictures or grafters, market trader type people would say, getting an edge, drawing the crowd in. And then at the end of it, we go, step this way, in you go to the Magic Museum, and then they'd realise they had to pay money to get in. And the vast majority of them kind of committed to it then, because they'd stood here, watching, enjoying it, clap. So they've got involved in the moment, they've got drawn into that kind of make-believe that's taken place in front of them and become a part of it. They've kind of become absorbed into the moment and then walk this way, and you've never said it's free, but they stop critically analysing things consciously and just kind of follow the leader, because one person's has it, and they follow. And the vast majority, some people are not sheep, but the vast majority of them would go into the exhibition pair. Very few would find out that it was whatever price it was and go, oh, I'm not going in. What a swizz. The majority of people went because they didn't want to look daft. They saw other people going in, so they felt that they should do the same. They felt, even if this was a split-second thought process that I'm kind of verbalising, they no doubt felt, some of them, oh, fuck, I've been, damn, there's a price to pay here, and I didn't realise I've fallen for that old chestnut again. But rather than say something, rather than speak out, rather than do the unexpected, rather than potentially have people look at them and go, oh, somebody's speaking out, rather than potentially look the odd one out, which, you know, therefore could mean that they attract negative comment, and that could, you know, make them feel silly and ashamed and daft, and therefore that would all come under the category of pain or negativity. Rather than doing that, generally, the majority of them would just conform do what they perceived would be normal and acceptable, and it's just easier to pay than speak out. If you haven't already clicked, you will more so as we go along, but what I've just described not only is the truth behind what happened at that moment in my life, what we were doing, but also is effectively what happens every time you treat a hypnotherapy client, or happens every time you do a stage hypnosis show. As is the case with all these things that I'm going to be telling you before the morning break that apparently have no relevance whatsoever. They actually do. So, I was involved in this magic exhibition. Then I started school because my mum insisted, although we were travelling with the circus, and back then you used to go to a different school in each town, each week. And there came a point as I was growing up, I think I was about 5.5. Now that might sound a bit odd because most kids only start school at 5, where my birthday fell. I actually started school when I was 4. Back then, I know it's all old, but I was actually 4 when I started school. But when I got to about sort of 5.5, my mum started saying to me, Dad, look, I want him to have a proper education and all that. So she insisted that we get a house and stop travelling around in caravan, trailer, call it what you will. So that did happen to an extent, although during holidays and at weekends, and on quite often occasions evenings, or evenings it'd generally be going out with my dad with one of his cabaret shows, I was still doing shows. Again, at that point, not particularly because I wanted to, but because I was told I would be doing. And certainly I started to realise, I would say around the age of 6, that I most definitely didn't enjoy this one. Well, no, that's a lie. 90% of what was going on I didn't enjoy. And I didn't want to dress up as the clown because, you know, when we settled down and I was going to the same school, it might be a novelty for a week when you're just visiting your town. And, oh, there's, you know, the circus kids here for a week. But when you're going to the school consistently and they get to know you, you basically are the freak. Or at least that was my experience. I was the odd one out. I didn't fit in with their considered norm. My dad was a clown on the circus. My mum was a, you know, whip-cracking, sharp-shooting cowgirl. At least she had been, because at that point she ended up working for Bury Council as a housing benefit fraud investigator. Couldn't be more different, really. But that was the perception. That's what had been in the press. And the Daily Mirror did an article on me when I was 6. Yeah, I was 6. In clowns again, came to the fucking school, taking the pictures during class, during school time. And, well, basically, from the moment of that appearing the next day in the Daily Mirror, I was daily bullied by the teachers. Ironically, at that school, not by the kids, by the teachers. Because they didn't like the fact that, essentially, I was earning more money in a week than they were in a month. I suppose, to some extent, I can understand where they were coming from. However, it was highly unprofessional of them, the behaviour that I was subjected to. I hated it. I dreaded going into school. Thankfully, eventually, about just close to 2 years later, my mum managed to find us somewhere to move. At the time I was living in a place called Ainsworth, but we moved then back to my dad's hometown, a place called Haywood, and I went to a different school. Cool. No more bullying of the teachers. I thought, brilliant. However, unfortunately, once people found out what I did and what my family did, the bullying started, but this time from the kids. and continued, well, just continued. I tried to kill myself on at least 3 occasions because in my head this nightmare was never going to stop. And that crazy fucked upness at the time, the way I filtered it, I know people talk about the way you filter experiences, the way I perceived it, the way I looked at it, call it what you will at the time, was that this was all my mum and dad's fault. More so my dad, because he was the one who I was having to go in the ring with. But there again, there would have been parts of my head that were saying, why didn't your mum stop me from having to do it? But in fairness, the actual hatred grew towards my dad. Now, this is not going to send me off into some weird Sigmund or sick mind fraud analogy of, kill your father, fuck your mother psychology, because frankly, that's complete and utter communism. But the relevance is, I at the time felt I had no choice. I felt trapped. I wanted to rebel against this, but unfortunately, there was something addictive about this negativity. In the sense that as much as I did not want to be dressed up as the clown in Circus Ring, because that signified getting bullied at school, being the odd one out, people would laugh. But they were meant to, because that was the nature of it. So that laughter was good. It meant I was doing something right. Doing it successfully. Because the result of doing a comedy routine and getting laughter means you've done it right. So having done something right, and in this case the recognition of that was the laughter and applause, what in therapy they would call an internal conflict. Because as much as I didn't want to do it, because it signified the bullying, the negativity and all this, the applause and the laughter did in a strange fucked up way make me feel good. Because it meant I'd done something right. It meant in that moment, in that second of my life, that those people clearly weren't bullying me for being, they were, obviously it was a different environment, they were paid to be at a show, but I mean that kind of wasn't part of my thought process as a kid. It was, these people at least aren't bullying me for what I'm doing. But sadly the next day at school, it would all start again. Now, I don't know why, it just entered my head that there's a lot of similarities there to the people who often, a lot of rape victims that I've treated over the years have actually said the worst thing wasn't the fact they were forced into sex. It was the actual fact that in some way they enjoyed it. Now I'm not saying the people wanting to be raped, they didn't. But there are natural feelings that they had that they may not have experienced before, that, like it or lump it, fell into the category of pleasurable, but because this wasn't with their free will, it wasn't with their consent, and it was quite clearly shouldn't have been going on, something that's supposed to be programmed into you as pleasurable and does have some natural, like it or lump it, it's going to feel a certain way for the majority of people, was happening in a context where it shouldn't have been happening, and the person is aware of that, or even worse, they are young, that they don't know that it shouldn't be happening. You put this together and the both things get confused, And that causes the fucking long-term problem where the person starts to feel ashamed of themselves because I knew it was wrong, but why was there a part of me that enjoyed it? Because I shouldn't have done. But that's just, does this make sense? Because it's a really fucked up out there thing I'm trying to explain to you. But you will encounter this if you treat therapy clients long enough. Often, it's not what happened to them that's the issue. Often, it's the way they look and perceive it, or the way it got mixed up with other things. So the real problem is caused by the lack of self-worth they may now feel because of the way they think about it, or the way they feel that they blame themselves in some way, or they feel ashamed, or they have a kind of sense of guilt because they think, oh, it's my fault, what did I do wrong? When they didn't do anything wrong. You know, the fact is, if somebody says no, no means no. But all these fucked up thoughts go on, and that is what causes the problem. More so, this should never have happened, obviously. But this is why some people, and I'm using an extreme example of rape, some people, are gang raped, let's take it a bit more extreme, fucking gang raped, and they walk away from it, and a couple of days later, you would never think that had happened to them. The only reason you end up knowing about it is because they voluntarily mention it, because they now perhaps have started working for some victim support group, or they started raising money or awareness of it's, you know, this is less likely to happen to other people. Some people will take that really fucking horrific experience, walk away from it, and use that pain to push them forward to feeling good, to doing something worthwhile. Unfortunately, just as many people, possibly more, will take that pain and dwell in it and just go, poor me, poor me. And as heartless as this sounds, you know, when they end up approaching you for therapy years later, the sad fact is that 10 years that perhaps that may have passed by, with them reliving it in their head, and going, poor me, why did it happen, guilt, shame, feelings, whatever. The only person they've got to blame for not having got on with their life is not the person who fucking, not the people who gang raped them. Well, obviously, yes, that was the initial step, and shouldn't have happened. But the actual only person they've got to blame? Themselves. As heartless as that sounds, there is only ever one person to blame for what is going on in your life. And that is you. And I say that as someone who did try and kill himself. Eventually I woke up to the fact that there was only one person that was ever going to change any of this, and that was me. So I did. I didn't need a therapist to help me come to that decision, fortunately. A lot of people, however, do need a therapist for one key reason. Think about this, there's a lot of truth in it, what I'm about to say. If they were to suddenly wake up one morning and go, you know what, the only fucking thing holding me back in life is me, and immediately started doing all the things they should be doing in life, and wanted to do, and said they were going to do, then the problem is, they would have to explain to their family, their friends, and the people who knew them, why they hadn't got off their arse and done that sooner. They would have to admit to themselves that they were a fucking attention-seeking dickhead who'd basically been using this bullshit as an excuse to not even have a go at achieving something in life. G'day, it's a lot easier not to try than it is to do something and potentially fuck up. Because if you don't try in the first place, people can't go, ha ha, it didn't work. So it's kind of safe to be able to use I'm the victim mentality. And sadly, the majority of clients that you'll ever confront, that's the state of mind they're in. They can't just go, oh, I'll get on with my life, because then they've got to explain why they've been such an attention-seeking fucking victim, poor me, for so long. They've got to explain that to the family, the friends, the loved ones. They've got to face up to it themselves, and they've just been a monumental dickhead and wasted many years of their life. And it was all their fucking fault. It wasn't down to the fucking bullies that bullied them at school. I've been there. So, you know, as heartless as it sounds, I come from a position of having been there. The only person they've got to blame for nearly fucking killing themselves is themselves. You know, I've forgotten his name, but he was on some American talk show. His name really doesn't matter, but if you tap into Google, guy who survived jumping off a multi-storey building, trying to commit suicide, you'll come up with chat shows galore, where this guy's on. I apologize for not remembering his name. But he says, you know, when he jumped off the building, when he was about halfway down, and he could see the floor flying towards him, he suddenly realised he didn't really have that many problems in life, except one. Now, he was very lucky, and he's still alive, and now he's making a fucking fortune out of doing the after-dinner speaking circuit and stuff about, you know, I survived, trying to kill myself. You know, the key core of his message is, the only person that will ever get you out of the shit that you're in is you. Because even if you do require someone else's help in some manner, the only way that's going to happen is if you ask for it, for example. So however you look at it, the person that makes it happen is you. So you are also the person who's to blame if it doesn't happen. Stage one, you have to face up to that. The only reason that any of you, at the end of this weekend, will not succeed as a stage hypnotist or a hypnotherapist or a magician using a bit of hypnosis, combining you with whatever area of desire you fall into. The only reason you wouldn't succeed, not because of what I've taught you or haven't taught you, or what I've given you as backup or not. Because, frankly, by lunchtime today, you'll technically know more than enough to be able to build a very successful career on if you get off your fucking ass. Stop making excuses. Stop going, oh, what if, or going, oh, but that other person, they've got these advantages I haven't got, that's why I can't achieve that. Fuck off. You know, oh, I should do this, I could do that, oh, I should do that, and I would if the stars were to align on a Thursday in Bangkok, whilst fucking a blonde-haired virgin with a donkey watching, then I'd do it. No, get out of that mentality. The only person who's going to stop you is you. I go back to the plot. So, I woke up, I realised there was only one person that would get me out of this shithole. This psychological hell that was going on, and that was me. Now, sadly, I couldn't change school. By this point, actually, we had changed school in the sense of we moved from primary school to secondary school, but those kids that bullied me had moved schools as well. So it really didn't improve matters. Plus, there were a whole bunch of additional people, because it was a bigger school, to bully me, as they did in the short term. Because I used to go to the library with my mum. And I'll say, when I was, going back just a stage, I kind of rebelled, as I said, against my dad. I realised that only I could stop the pain, as it were, the negativity. So, I had that conflict, though, that I did like the applause, I did like the laughter in that context, because it was meant to be, it made me feel good. But beyond that, what label did it have? Yeah, it was conveniently, ties in with exactly the point I need to make to you, how strange. that laughter, that applause, made me feel loved. These are very key words, pivotal to everything. Whether you're going to do therapy or stage, we'll see how this fits in. But it made me feel loved, wanted, needed. appreciated, cared for, cherished, and valued. 7 key words. I know some of them are more than one word, but we'll just call them keywords, okay? I know it's not technically right, but they sound bad. But there are 7 key things. They made me feel loved, wanted, needed, appreciated, cared for, cherished and valued. Now at first sounding, they sound kind of the same. But if you get a dictionary and look up the meanings of each of those words and phrases, you'll see that they are in fact very different. And pretty much, if you bring me a human being, any human being, that truly feels that they are loved, wanted, needed, appreciated, cared for, cherished and valued, totally, I can pretty much tell you here and now, they will not have any habits, addictions, fears, phobias, they won't get stressed out about life. Because if those things are in perfect balance, none of the other shit can exist. By the same token, I can guarantee you that anyone that does come to you with a habit, fear, addiction, phobia, or doesn't handle stress well, or whatever, I can 100% guarantee that on some level, somewhere, in one or more, it can be just one of them that's severely lacking, or it can be a bit lacking in a couple of the areas, but somewhere they will either feel not loved, not wanted, not needed, not appreciated, not cared for, not cherished, or not valued, or a combination of some or more of them. And generally speaking, the more severe the issue the person's got, the more there will be lackings in more of the areas. And you can pretty much guarantee anyone who's at the point of suicide and trying to kill themselves does not feel loved, wanted, needed, appreciated, cared for, cherished, or valued. Otherwise, they wouldn't be trying to kill themselves. So when you realise this, the next stage is, where does that lead us to? Well, if somebody doesn't feel loved, wanted, needed, appreciated, cared for, cherished, or valued, that one or more of them, or a combination, everyone's different. When I say everyone's different, they are. But the principle's still the same. It's just that one person's going to have the lackings here, for someone else it's over here. But the end result will be the same for them. That if there's a lacking in one or more of those things, it will have a knock-on effect on one or more of their self-confidence, their self-esteem, their self-image, and or their self-control. For self-control, you could also use the word willpower. We'll just say self-control for now. Again, they sound like they're the same thing, but self-image, self-esteem, and self-confidence are all very different. One of them is about the way people feel about themselves inwardly. Another is about how they project themselves. Another is about how they perceive other people. They are actually all very different when you look into it. So one or more of those will take a negative bashing if there's a lacking in one or more of the 7 fundamental key points. And if there is a knock-on, well, when there is a knock-on, and there's an effect on either the self-confidence, self-esteem, self-image, or self-control, that will ultimately cause something negative, or painful, or undesirable to occur. Whether that manifests itself as the person doing something they don't want to do, or feeling or acting as though they can't do something they want to do. There's only really those 2 categories of problems. Doing something you don't want to, or not doing something that you say you desire to want to. And they will end up in a situation where, because of these feelings of not feeling loved, wanted, needed, appreciated, cared for, cherished, or valued, or a combination thereof, therefore having a knock-on effect on their self-image, self-control, self-esteem, self-confidence, that they feel that they're suddenly in a position where I'm the victim, I can't do anything about this. Now, generally speaking, the vast majority of people, I genuinely believe, do end up realising, actually, no, that's bullshit. If I was to do X, Y, Z, this would stop. But, as paradoxical as this sounds, people don't consciously, generally speaking, but most people don't consciously want to be trapped in pain. But at some weird, fucked up, unconscious level, a lot of people find that quite comfortable and a safe place to be. Because being the victim and having the perfect excuse to not do X, Y, or Z, the perfect excuse why they've not achieved or done certain things, or the perfect excuse why they are doing these negative things, well, it's outside my control, I can't help it. Cobblers. You know the way you stop smoking? You take the cigarette, you put it out in an ashtray, you don't buy any more, and you don't smoke anymore. That's it. You know how you lose weight? Stop eating so much fucking fatty food and do a bit more exercise. That's it. You know how you become more confident? The truth is, you probably don't. Because all the people that appear confident actually probably aren't as confident as you think they are, because it's all a psychological construct in your head, and also more of a reason and excuse not to do things, because I couldn't do it as well as that, so what's the point in fucking trying? It's all bullshit. And yes, I am standing on this day and saying that if you smoke, you know, the only person you've got to blame is you. And you could go, well, hang on, I'm addicted to the nicotine. Guess what? It's your fucking fault. Stop buying the fuckers, and you know what, in a day or two, it'll have all left your system, and the only thing that'll be left is that voice in your head going, oh, I should have a cigarette, can I normally do it this time? And you know what? You've got a choice. You don't have to listen to that voice. You know what's really sad? The real sad thing is listening to the voice that's telling you what to do, rather than doing what you actually want to do. People go, yeah, but I can't, I haven't got the willpower. Fuck off. It's complete and utter fucking bullshit excuses. That is why we have a career as therapists, because people get trapped in this part, and they do realise, I genuinely believe, they do realise on some level, whether they will do it consciously or not is another matter, but they realise, slight itch, if I suddenly just stop smoking, or I stop drinking as much as I've been doing, or I stop taking that drug, there's a couple of issues here. One, there'll be changes, because by virtue I'm not going to go to that crack again to buy more crack, cocaine, so I'm going to lose contact with those friends, fuck off, friends. So there's going to be changes, and change apparently is scary to most people. But there's also the other thing that they've got to admit to themselves, and everyone that they know, that they're a crazy, fucked up loser that could have got off their ass and sorted this problem out a long, long time ago. But they didn't. So what they need is an excuse. Because to do that, they'd have to admit that it's their fucking fault. And they, therefore, would have to blame themselves and face up to the fact that they're guilty of fucking themselves over and causing their own problems in life. And that in itself, the idea of doing that is painful to most people. People will tend to try and avoid pain and do things to seek out pleasure. The grey area is when they get their pleasure from seeking out pain. S&M clubs, example. But that's not relevant to what we're on about here. But they will tend to, generally speaking, avoid pain, move towards pleasure where they can. So that means not facing up to the truth, not admitting the truth, and needing a reason and an excuse to change. So paying a therapist, or getting referred to a therapist by a doctor for free, still the same. Going to a professional, you know, with the fancy, hard-earned diplomas all over the wall. This expert who knows what they're doing. And going for this course of treatment or this session, depending on how it's framed, the way the perception is set up, which will make more sense as the day goes on. They can sit in a therapist's chair or lie on the couch, go through this mumbo-jumbo ritual that is frankly complete and utter fucking bullshit.